Lowell Dean Cox said, quote, "In that clear water, you could see the sharks circling. Then every now and then, like lightning, one would come straight up and take a sailor and take him straight down. One came up and took the sailor next to me. It was just somebody screaming, yelling, or getting bit."
That is so fucked up. It's fucked up. So fucked up. It is just so damn fucked up. That's fucked up.
Okay, I can hear you telepathically tell me that you're ready, Cam.
Yeah.
I heard it through the mind.
Exactly. It works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. We're just in sync like that now.
Yeah. It's the connection.
Just call us Justin and Lance, because we be in sync.
Oh, no. I did not know who you were talking about.
Woo! That's a way to kick off the show. And I think I have a lot of nervous energy, and that's why.
Okay.
Okay. Hey, you guys. Welcome back to the podcast. This is That's So Fucked Up, a podcast about cults, murder, and other generally super fucked up stuff. We are hosts. I'm Ashley Richards.
And I'm Cam Dexter. Please remember to rate, subscribe, and review if you are enjoying the show. You can also play bingo with us for a chance to win a free month of Patreon. You can find all our information on our website at tsfuthepodcast.com. So go over there if you're not already there and pull up Fucked Up Bingo, because from the little bit I know about the story that Ash is about to tell, things are going to get a little wild.
Just researching this gave me anxiety.
Okay.
So, here we go. Okay, you guys, just remember we're not journalists or any of that, A. B, if you've been listening to the show for a long time, you might be able to guess what today's show's about, because it's something that I'm deeply obsessed with, and that's sharks. So today we are talking about the USS Indianapolis. My main source was a documentary called the USS Indianapolis, The Legacy. And that was really good. It had a ton of firsthand survivor accounts. And yeah, that was really good. If you guys want to check it out, it's for free on Tubi.
Hey, Ashley.
Yeah.
Who do you think would win, a great white shark or an orca?
Oh, orca.
Yeah. Have you seen that? They eat the livers out of the great white sharks.
Oh, shit. I didn't know they got all fucking Braveheart on it.
Yeah. For some reason, they just eat the livers. Isn't that crazy?
Well, maybe it's like there's a lot of fat in the liver.
Yeah. I have no idea.
But it seems like the rest would still be edible.
Oh, definitely. They just like to slice them down the middle and then like grab the juicy bits.
Yeah, that seems kind of like almost just like aggressive, though, for aggression's sake. You know?
Is there a type of shark you like or dislike the most or least? Do you like them, or what's I have to ask?
Okay, so I actually grew up in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Surfing and with fucking in the ocean, and I didn't mind them. I didn't really think about them.
Yeah.
And then I just like started watching shark movies for some reason. I don't know. There's a bunch of them, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm. So it's a nervous thing.
Yeah, and then I just started like researching shark attacks, and like it just became a whole thing. But I actually did go swimming with whale sharks in Australia like 6 years ago.
Oh,
and
cool.
that was amazing.
I bet.
They don't eat people.
Nope.
I think plankton.
Yeah. Okay.
That was really cool. I like those. Those are okay.
Okay, so I'll let you start.
I don't like the aggressive ones.
So we're headed into shark territory is what I'm driving at.
Well, what I'm about to tell you about is the worst shark attack in history.
Oh.
So,
okay. So yes.
Strap in. If you didn't have a phobia before, get ready to pick one up.
All right, I'm ready.
Okay, so the USS Indianapolis was a highly active and decorated warship during World War II, carrying 1,197 men. And it went down on July 30th, 1945. About 300 men went down with the ship initially, leaving about 900 to survive adrift in the open, shark-infested Philippine Sea. So the Philippine Sea is infested with oceanic whitetips, which are one of the most dangerous sharks. They're known to attack humans.
I like how you use the word infested. It's not like they live there. The ocean is infested, you know? Just gonna point that out.
Well, like, the planet's infested with humans.
Exactly.
So,
no, I agree with that.
Kind of
sure.
Same deal.
Infested.
So they're like in the middle of literally fucking nowhere, halfway between Guam and the Philippines. Of the 900 men that didn't initially go down with the ship, only 317 of them would survive. Like I said, making this the worst shark attack in history. It's probably about, the numbers are estimated anywhere in between a few dozen to 150 of the fatalities being from shark attacks.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Which is a wide range, but even if you go on the lowest range, 36 shark attacks over 4 days is like a pretty solid amount. And that's just living people. That's not counting all of the dead bodies that they're just like, like chomping up constantly.
Okay, that's a lot.
Yeah, so like, don't even worry, Cam. Everything's going to be fine, except for it's not going to be at all. Because, like, this was basically like Titanic, but instead of freezing waters, it's fucking sharks.
So wait, set this, or maybe you will, but are these people, they don't have dinghies or any sort of lifeboats? They're not protected from the water in any way? They're just floating in the ocean?
Well, I'm gonna get into that.
Okay.
But I was just kind of, I was pulling a Cam Dexter and just kind of, painting you a little picture.
Yeah.
I'm taking you to the end before I take you to the beginning.
That's the jam. Yeah.
You know, girl. I picked some things up from you. So now, here's a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Would you rather have been a Titanic person who died of freezing to death, or a U.S.S. Indianapolis person who got attacked by a shark?
I think 100% freezing to death. I've also heard that 1,000%. Because they also say drowning, they're like, you almost have moments of tranquility. Now, I don't know if that's the same thing as when you freeze, but I know that some people...
you could, it'd be fine. You'd figure it out.
I'd rather drift off into the nothingness than have parts of my body bitten off.
Okay. So it's World War II. The thing about this story is it's not only fucked up in the sense that it was the worst maritime accident in U.S. naval history. It was the worst shark attack in history. But we're just talking about World War II and the PTSD that these fucking men have because of not only that, but just the things that they saw, you know? So I'm going to get a little bit into that too, just because it's fucking crazy and really sad. So it's World War II and they're drafting men between 18 and 37. 61% were drafted, only 39% willingly enlisted. But a lot of the people that willingly enlisted were young men, like 16, 17. You were supposed to be 17 with parental consent, but I'm sure they let 16-year-olds in. They were just like, yeah, whatever, you know?
Okay.
Or people lied or whatever. But a lot of these young boys, they wanted to prove themselves and that they were brave and they wanted to go fight for their country and stuff. And they were encouraged to join the Navy. I saw posters in this documentary, and the posters said, see the world and have a girl in every port. And there was pictures of pinup girls on the posters. They made it look real glamorous.
Oh, I remember, actually. The pinup girls that were part of the promotional propaganda stuff. Yeah.
They're like, ooh, join the Navy. It's sexy.
Totally.
And they got paid a whopping $18 a month for, literally really putting their lines on the life daily. And a lot of these kids had never even left their hometown. A lot of them didn't know how to swim, which is, what the fuck? You're literally living on a boat and you don't know how to swim. that wasn't part of basic training, I guess.
Yeah. I also just like how you said lines on the life 2 times in a row.
Did I?
I think so. Otherwise, I need to get my ears checked.
I'm deep in the story, Cam. I'm deep in the story. Cam,
I'm sorry.
I thought you said it right the second time.
The vet, roll that tape. Like literally really putting their lines on the life. Their lines on the life daily.
So Cam was right and Ashley and I were wrong.
And, you know, the boys who were assigned to the U.S.S. Indianapolis were in a ton of battles because this was a very, very active warship. They were in the Battle of Iwo Jima, which was from February 19th to March 26th of 1945. And they were working together with the Marines, and it was one of the deadliest battles in World War II. 6,800 Marines were killed. And one guy said that he was glad that he didn't make the Marines because he was just watching a ton of them being blown out of the water, and that the water was just like red with blood.
Ugh.
Obviously with like tears in his eyes as he's saying this. Like, it was so sad. Like, the PTSD was so palpable in hearing these men talk about their experiences.
Mm-hmm.
They also fought in the Battle of Okinawa, and on March 31st of 1945, a kamikaze pilot dropped a bomb onto their ship before crashing into the sea. And the bomb like went through to a bottom compartment, and that compartment started filling with water. And they had to trap 9 people down there because they could only get so many people out, and then they couldn't get the other people out, but the water was going to start filling up the rest of the ship. So like they just said they had to like lock these people in and hear their like crying for help as they're drowning.
Ugh.
And I also thought it was interesting. I looked a little into kamikaze pilots, and there's also with like samurais and Japanese warriors, I think it's called like harikara, where they like plunge their knives into their stomachs and basically like disembowel themselves. And it's like a really painful way to do suicide. But in Japan, soldiers are taught that you should fight for your country with your life. So a lot of times if soldiers came back from war, they would be ostracized in their communities because they're like, yeah, you obviously didn't give it all you had.
Wow. It's like,
yeah, I thought that was like pretty intense.
yeah, it's an unusual cultural thing. It's like to be, I mean, I understand there's different types of survivor's guilt, but this is a completely other thing.
Yeah, it's from
an external source in your community saying you didn't give your life for your country.
Yeah, it's like
we don't really understand that in America. We're kind of just like individuals to the fucking bitter end over here.
And just like, don't even get me started on how we treat our veterans. Like, obviously, it's not that bad, but, well, I was going to be like, and when a lot of the veterans came back from World War II or from Vietnam, a lot of them were like addicted to heroin. And like, then everybody was like, boo, get a job, like, bum. Anyways, like, it's really sad how veterans are treated across the board in a lot of situations. So after that, they went from Okinawa to San Francisco to Mare Island Navy Yard for repairs. And a lot of the guys figured that they would be done at this point because their ship was busted. The war was like obviously going to be over soon. So they all kind of thought they were like home free, but then they called out one last time and they said that they were all really dreading it. Yeah, so before they departed, yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry. No, you go.
I was just thinking, I was like, okay, like I think five months or so, right? The war ends in December of 1945.
September 1st.
September.
Yeah. So
really?
Like,
okay.
What's really sad is this happened like a month, 1 month before the war ended.
A couple. Okay. Yep. All right.
So before they departed San Francisco on July 16th, 1945, they started like loading all these huge boxes onto the ship, but they wouldn't tell anybody what was in them. Not even the captain knew. But they were like, okay, you got to get to Tinian Island super fast. You're on a super secret top mission. So like most people didn't even know that they were like doing this. And what they didn't know is that they were delivering the parts to assemble the atomic bomb codenamed Little Boy that was dropped on Hiroshima a few weeks later. And it was interesting, actually, because I was watching this documentary and they were interviewing survivors of the Hiroshima and Nagasaki attacks. And one woman was saying that, you know, it was good that they did the bomb because it ended the war, and Japan really would have, their motto basically is like, fight till the last man. Just, you know, basically everybody fight until death.
Shh, that's like an insane statement, though. Right? Like, that's the fucking worst thing I've ever heard. And so many innocent, so many innocent women and children died. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the most disgusting comment ever. Okay, just want to make that clear.
Yep. It's really, really gross.
Okay.
Yeah, they were like literally like, thank God America dropped that huge fucking bomb on our country that like killed hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah, I don't understand.
It was kind of cool researching this because I had to like kind of brush up on my World War II history, which I haven't learned about since like 7th grade, you know? And I was like, fuck, this is crazy stuff, man.
Yeah.
History is super interesting. It's very violent. So, 10 days later, on July 26th, they left Tinian to go to Guam, where a bunch of the crew had completed their tours of duty and were relieved by other sailors. So, like, this also was just like, oh my God. Imagine the survivor's guilt if you were one of the sailors who had been on that ship for like years and got off 4 days before it went down.
Mm-hmm.
Or imagine being one of the people who just got on and you're like, what the fuck, really? Like, I just got here.
I can't imagine either. Although I think I'd be happier if I were off than on.
Yeah, I mean, I choose A too, but like, either way.
Yeah.
Just crazy. So, leaving Guam on July 28th, she began sailing towards Leyte, where the crew was going to get some more training. And a ship that size is supposed to have a destroyer escort when they're in enemy waters, because they're not a ship like, I don't know, I don't get it, but they're just supposed to have an escort who can like guard them and like fuck people up who are trying to fuck with them or something. I don't know. But the captain was denied one because they were told that there was no enemy subs in the area that they were going, even though somebody had received like a word or whatever that there was an attack sub in the path that they were going. This whole story is just like fraught with so much insane lack of communication, like across the board. Just like nobody gave a flying fuck about this ship. They're just like, yeah, no, like, go. You're going to be fine. It's like wild how flagrantly, is that a word? Is that the right word?
Yeah.
Like,
sure,
how much they did not, like, protect this ship or its 1,200 men.
Okay.
So at 12:15 a.m. on July 30th, 1945, a Japanese submarine fired 6 torpedoes, 2 of which hit the ship. The first torpedo hit the bow of the ship and took off 65 feet, which was 10% of the entire ship. Just like, boom, right off the top. This ignited a tank of 3,500 gallons of aviation fuel, and a pillar of fire shot hundreds of feet into the sky. So there's like a lot of fuel and fire going on, which is like getting burned alive would not be a great way to go either. I'd still prefer that to the shark, but either way, not good. People said when the torpedoes hit the ship that they flew 10, 15 feet into the air.
Oof.
The second torpedo hit fuel tanks and powder magazines, setting off a series of explosions that essentially ripped the ship in half. And it was said that, people were burned alive because, fire. And that just the blood-curdling screams stopped after about 30 seconds when, however many people just burned up. So the ship was still traveling at 19 miles an hour. Like, it's still it's missing 10%. It's basically in half, and it's still just like propellers are still going. And so water is funneling through it super quick. And no one knew what to do. All the communication was down. Like the phones were dead. So the captain was yelling to abandon ship, and it was just people, it was just word of mouth traveling. So, and obviously there's like explosions and shit going on, so you can't hear well. So a lot of people didn't know what to do. And there was, you know, higher ranking people saying like, don't cut the life jackets down until we're told to abandon ship. So they weren't like, you're asking about boats and life jackets and stuff. It was such mayhem that like only, like I think they did get a lot of life jackets, but they only got a handful of rafts for 900 people. And like a lot of the life jackets went down with the ship because of that. And they hadn't been trained in how to abandon ship or how to survive in water or how to swim.
That's a huge, huge fuck up.
And these are fucking babies. Like I'm saying, a lot of them are 16, 17, 18. They're kids. Like, can you imagine how just scary? I mean, also another huge communication fuck up. Navy intelligence had intercepted a message from the Japanese sub discussing the attack, but they thought that it was a trick to lure them. So they ignored it. Like, what? So people are jumping over the sides. Like I said, it's mayhem. I think it basically like did a Titanic and like broke in half, and then the bow sunk, and then the fan propeller like went all the way up, and people started climbing up that, trying to stay out of the water or whatever.
For as long as possible, yeah.
But the 10,000 tons of steel that made up the ship sunk in 12 minutes.
Yeah, it doesn't take long. That's a lot of steel, right?
Well, I looked up Titanic today, and it's like most sources say 2.5 hours it took to sink. But then there was like one rogue website that was like, well, actually, somebody went down and did some more research, and it only took 5 minutes. So, I don't know. I feel like there was a lot of survivors, or there was quite a few, though. So I feel like they would have been like, no, that's inaccurate. If everybody was saying 2.5 hours, like, you would know 5 minutes. You would know a few minutes between a couple hours.
Yes. Yeah. And also the people in the lifeboats in the Titanic. I mean, I haven't really looked into it, but I watched the movie a few times. It definitely seemed as though the people who were in the lifeboats just had to wait to be rescued. There wasn't a lot of survivor, like they didn't have to struggle to survive. They were dropped off the side of the ship. They were cold, uncomfortable for sure. But what I'm trying to say is that they weren't under duress or any sort of extreme stress to not like have a proper gauge for how much time is gone by. That's what I'm saying. The people who are trying to survive and they're, you know, all the shit that Jack was up to, you know, he might not know how much time has gone by.
God, yeah. So there's fuel everywhere. A lot of guys hit the water and said they were just immediately in oil. They said the oil would get in your eyes and your throat and make you throw up. And one sailor said that he was swimming all night from like midnight to 5:30 without a life jacket just to get away from the spilling oil.
Oof.
So initially they're afraid of, you know, catching on fire because there's fucking oil and fire everywhere, or getting sucked under with the ship, or that the Japanese would come back and start shooting at them in the water. But as if this hasn't been bad enough, after we come back from commercial break, we're going to tell you how much worse it gets. Okay. Okay, we are back. All right, so most of the badly wounded died in the first 8 hours. There was like skin hanging off of people's faces from oil burns, and just like fucking gnarly. A lot of people were obviously very injured. And it's like, not only is it just everything, but there's also 6 to 12 foot swells Like, that's big waves.
Yeah, that's really big waves. Those are some big waves.
Even being in a fucking raft in the best of conditions, just in 6 to 12 foot waves, sounds like my fucking nightmare.
That's a lot.
I can't. I can't.
Yeah.
Okay. So like I said, there's just a few life rafts, and then there's these like cargo nets that have buoys. And so people are trying to like gather in these like cargo nets as well or something, like, I don't know. But they're trying to like get together because the first morning they're like immediately already starting to see sharks. They were told that an SOS did get out, and one did get out. So they figured that they would be searched for and rescued like the next day. But declassified records later showed that 3 fucking stations received the signals and didn't do anything. One commander was drunk. One had ordered his men not to disturb him, and another thought it was a Japanese trap.
Wow. So many things went wrong in
like,
this.
These people were ignored every step of the way.
Yeah, there were so many like checks here that could have been hit to avoid such a horrible disaster.
Or they at least thought if the SOS wasn't received, that when they didn't report to their destination, that would be, you know, like
our
something they would notice.
Our stories are actually so similar.
Oh my gosh.
Not in the threat is completely different, but being near the ocean, burns, and people not doing their fucking jobs and coming to help people when they should. Yeah.
Oh, I'm fucking intrigued. Stay tuned for next week, you guys.
We could cut that out if we want. I just had to say it. I'm like, holy shit. Now there's like 3 huge things that are really
wow.
Huh. Anyway, it's going to be a good one.
Oh, I'm excited.
Okay,
so,
please continue. Okay, yeah.
People not doing their jobs, though. This is not even not doing their jobs. This is just horrible, horrible checks and balances. Port officials at Leyte weren't even required to report the arrival or non-arrival of a ship. So it said they were scheduled to arrive there on like the 31st or whatever. So on the 1st, somebody just like wiped them off the board because they're like, okay, new day, like new schedule.
Interesting. I wonder if everything was relaxed because people overall felt that the war was ending, or if that was always the schedule that was in place, or people, you know, I wonder why. That seems
at that
like
point they
not
were
efficient.
Never required. I know.
Oh, okay.
Well, I think as far as I know, I think.
Okay.
But the reason they didn't give them the destroyer escort on the way from Guam to the Philippines is because they were like, yeah, like things are winding down. You know, they're not, like, they're chilling, which the, you know, captain of that submarine, like, they were kind of winding down, but he was like, fuck it, I want to take out just, you know, like, anybody who I can for my country.
Mm-hmm.
So all the explosions, the sinking of the ship, and all of the thrashing in the water and the blood pretty soon attracted all these sharks. And the men soon realized that forming groups was the best chance of survival. So they formed like 6 or 7 different groups with anywhere between like 20 to hundreds of people. And this water was crystal fucking clear. So you could just look down and see schools of sharks circling below.
Would you want to see or not want to see?
There's
another question. You wouldn't want to see?
Well, no, I do. Oh my God, I don't want any. D, none of the above.
Yvette looks like she has a resounding no over there. Ashley, you say you would want to see.
No, I changed my mind. I want to see them because I want to see what the fuck they're doing.
I don't know which
I
don't even
know. Why would...
I think I might want to see them too, but...
Well, because you want to try to kick them if they're by you.
Yeah, exactly. In the nose.
It's like an out of sight, out of mind thing for me. If it's not there, I'm not going to worry.
No way.
Yeah, but if it keeps bumping into your leg...
If that were me out there, I'd be thinking it was someone else bumping into me.
You're all, Phil, cut it out. Phil's dead next to you. Oh, God.
You just have to push somebody else underneath you so that they get eaten first. Okay?
Yeah. No, pretty much. You want to stay in the middle of the group, though, because
Definitely.
that's where
Yeah.
you're the safest.
Yeah. The edges of the donut get bitten faster.
You're not good. Mm-hmm. Oh, donut sounds good. And not only can you see them circling below you, but there's just like fins out of the water, just circling everywhere. And some of these sharks were like 10 to 15 long, like they were feet long, like they were big motherfuckers.
Mm-hmm. That is really big.
Quote, in that clear water, you could see the sharks circling. Then every now and then, like lightning, one would come straight up and take a sailor and take him straight down. One came up and took the sailor next to me. It was just somebody screaming, yelling, or getting bit.
Now, did you look into why sharks attack? Was this that they're hungry? Because I know that often they don't eat people, or were they? Was this a food thing, or was this a territorial thing? Because this is a lot of people. It doesn't seem to me that they'd need to eat this much. Unless it was a massive school of sharks.
Well, it was a fuck ton of sharks.
Okay.
The explosion and everything just like attracted them from like miles around because they have like really strong, senses or whatever.
Yeah, and they can smell blood in the water from a very far.
Yeah, and this one is like, these and tiger sharks are two of the most aggressive. Like, everybody's afraid of great white sharks because they're terrifying, and that's what Jaws was.
Mm-hmm.
But they're like big, and they're also aggressive. They're more like big and scary. I think they're more likely to like take a chunk and swim away. But I think tiger sharks and these white tips are just aggressive fuckers. And I think they might just do it for either way, to eat you or just because they're mean.
Okay.
I don't know, Cam. Sharks have been around since like dinosaurs.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're like essentially like sea dinosaurs.
Yeah. They're top of their food chain, that's for sure. Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They're a perfect predator in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Yeah. So they said that you'd just like hear a blood-curdling scream and look over and somebody would be gone. And there would just be a huge cloud of blood in the water. And that they would try to stay away from bleeding guys because, they'd be attacked first. Because usually a lot of times when sharks attack, it's because like they smell the blood and maybe that makes them hungry.
Okay.
Maybe smelling blood puts them into a feeding frenzy. If you guys know a lot about sharks, hit us up. Because, yeah.
So I just did a quick Google search. This is a quote from the oceanservice.noaa.gov. Sharks have been known to attack humans when they are confused or curious. If a shark sees a human splashing in the water, it may try to investigate, leading to an accidental attack. Still, sharks have more to fear from humans than we do of them.
Okay, I know, Cam, that's like a tale as old as time. That's like what everybody says about sharks. And a lot of time that is the case, but then you hear about this stuff, and this is not that.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
It's like I did a story about this like sinking of a yacht, and it was tiger sharks in this story, and they were literally hunting these people, Cam, and eating the fuck out of them.
Okay.
And just like waiting and then like eating them aggressively.
Okay.
Episode 8, you guys. Gnarly shit. I thought that was like, I was like, this is the craziest story I've ever heard. No, this is the craziest. So somebody said that on the first day, they lost about 20 people to sharks. And by the second day, there was just carnage all over. He said that there were 15 sailors in one of those cargo nets and like 10 sharks descended on it. And it was just, they were all gone.
Oof.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm focusing a lot on the sharks because that's fucking terrifying. But also, the thing is, like, most of these men died not due to shark attacks, but dehydration, lack of food, exhaustion,
Mm-hmm.
They did have some meager rations, but some of them were just too terrified to even, take a sip of water if it was available. And they tried to open a can of Spam, but that ended up being a super bad idea because that just, like, really attracted the sharks. So then they couldn't open that. And Granville Crane said, quote, men began drinking salt water so much that they were very delirious.
Ooh.
In fact, a lot of them had weapons like knives, and they'd be so crazy that they'd be fighting amongst themselves and killing one another. And then there'd be others that drank so much salt water that they were seeing things. They'd say, the India's down below, and they're giving out fresh water and food in the galley. And they'd swim down, and a shark would get them, and you could see the sharks eating your comrade, end quote.
Oh,
Jesus fucking Christ.
Scariest environment.
Like, they said some people, too, just, like, gave up and just, like, you know, basically put their face down in the water and let themselves drown. Like, they said it was a lot easier to die than to stay alive.
Mm-hmm.
Not gonna lie, I think I'd die. I think I'd give up.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
So here, the Britannica says something interesting about sharks and why they attack. They also say that they're so... Well, this is important because I think just setting something up as, like, scary nature thing is... We don't want to put out, like, sharks are bad because sharks are just sharks, right? So because they're dominant predators, they're able to move at such insane speeds that a lot of the attacks, they think that they're most likely investigating. And sharks, this says their mouth functions as a, quote, finely tuned sensory organ, which is kind of how, like, you know how a dog will, like, lick something or smell something to kind of, like, figure out what's there? A shark could be just taking a bite or two out of a human, which would be lethal because they're huge in terms of the most deadly sharks. And they're just saying, is this something I want to eat? And mostly they choose not to because we don't taste very good to sharks, right?
Mm-hmm. But these sharks were eating these people.
Okay.
Like, attacking and eating them. Like, I've just, like, obsessed about sharks a lot, and you do find a lot of scientists and experts and stuff who say that, who are like, look, and I think that is true for the most part, but you can also find experts who say, like, yeah, for the most part that is true, but there are plenty of documented instances where sharks do just legitimately eat people, or where they've attacked people really aggressively, you know.
I'm not disputing that at all. I'm just saying aggressively to us could be just investigating to a predator like this. Like, it's going to kill me, and I'm going to have two huge holes in the side of me that look like they're eating me. But maybe, I mean, I'm just playing devil's advocate because I do think it's dangerous to just say, like, all sharks are bad and scary. Like,
oh, I'm not saying that at all, though.
Okay,
Kim.
Okay. And I think it's important to, like, you know, add some science in here about why sharks attack and actually, you know.
No, and you're right. And I'm not saying that sharks are bad or evil. They're, like, if you don't want to get a shark attacked by a shark, don't go into the fucking ocean. That's what I'm saying. But in most instances, 9 times out of 10, what you're saying is correct. But it's not 100% of shark attacks. They're just like, oh, what are you? I'm going to take a bite. Don't like you. And then they peace out. That's just not always the case. And these oceanic white tips are famous for attacking humans.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
So
I'm with you.
Yeah. We're both saying true things is
cool.
all. But
okay.
Yeah. But by any means, like, yeah, most sharks are not aggressive to humans. And most of the times with shark attacks, it is them investigating and then they peace out and it just does end up being lethal. But there are a couple species that are just like, nutso. They also think that tiger sharks may have been responsible for some of the attacks, possibly because they're also really aggressive to humans. And I think some of them are in that area, but it's more oceanic white tips.
Okay.
But I just saw, like, to speak to your point, something, I just pulled up oceanic white tips and a National Geographic article came up, and it, like, they've been decimated by the fishing and shark fin trade because people put this evil label on sharks. It makes them way easier to kill. Like in Australia, they did a culling thing where they just killed great white sharks. And it's like, okay, so people can surf?
It's a dangerous rhetoric because, these are things that get, anyway, there.
Yeah.
I feel bad for the sharks, man, just because they look scary. Doesn't mean. I mean, scariest environment imaginable is bobbing around and being a fucking snack. You know, whether it's deliberate, you know, goal-driven behavior by an animal or not. But
it's like, you know, most of them weren't killed by sharks. Most of them, like I said, were killed by like the elements and stuff. But still a few dozen to 150 people like getting attacked and eaten.
Horrendous.
Mm-hmm. So they were also just, you know, plagued with like sunburns and blisters. One guy said that it was just like sitting with your head surrounded by mirrors because, you know, the ocean like reflects.
Yeah, totally.
Super gnarly.
Oh.
They said that during the days they were just miserably hot and like, you know, literally dying of dehydration.
How many days are we into this now? That they're sitting in the water?
So it's a total of 4 by the end. Mm-hmm.
No,
I literally would have died. I would have.
Well, I don't know. I mean, does your I don't know if my survival instinct would kick in, or are you just like, I can't. 4 days is an unimaginable amount of time to be in hell.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And I mean, to be one of the people on the outside of one of those groups, or one of those people who like there was stragglers by themselves too, who weren't even like in a group, just by yourself bobbing in the fucking, oh my God, no, I'm gonna cry. And then you know, obviously the days were hell, and the nights were as well, because they were freezing and people got hypothermia.
Did the sharks attack more during the nighttime? I think of that in my, like, that's how in my mind it plays out. Like, you're okay during the day and then they like strike at night.
I don't know. I know I feel like I heard dawn and dusk were like feeding time. That's what I've heard. But yeah, they said though it was just kind of like all the time though. You could just see like fins swimming around you. Like literally them bumping into your legs constantly, looking down and seeing them circling below you.
Oof.
Like hunting them the whole time.
Wow.
And this is gnarly. They got saltwater legions and severe desquamation from being in the saltwater and oil for days. So it's basically like when your skin just starts like falling off.
Because it's just been sitting in water for way too long. Yuck.
Yeah. Like one of the rescuers said that like he picked somebody up and felt their flesh separate from their bone.
We are in for such a doozy because I'm about to tell my story and you're just going to, I cannot believe we did these back to back. Oh my gosh.
Not only that, but they were drowning from waterlogged vests and exhaustion. And they were seeing airplanes fly overhead all the time, but they were so high that they didn't, you know, see them. And they weren't reported missing by anyone, so no one was looking.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I can't imagine, like, one going over, like, constantly and just being like, there it goes. You know, there was a father on board, and he died from exhaustion because he got delirious because he was trying to comfort so many people. Which was just like I said, in like almost all of the interviews, these men are like crying as they talk about this.
Yeah.
The PTSD would be fucking unimaginable. Lowell Dean Cox said, quote, "I dream every night. It may not be in the water, but I am frantically trying to find my buddies. That's part of the legacy. I have anxiety every day, especially at night, but I'm living with it, sleeping with it, and getting by." And I'm sure a lot of his fellow survivors fucking shared that sentiment, you know?
And with these things, I mean, it's just so important to remember that surviving through the actual event doesn't mean that your trauma stops there. In a lot of ways,
my God.
In a lot of ways, you're surviving and you're in survival mode, and then the aftermath is when you really get fucked up.
Oh, you're just getting started, baby.
Whatever the traumatic situation is, seriously.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's easy to forget that, you know, that, they survived, they made it, and then, well, what happens next, you know?
I've actually thought in a lot of these situations, I don't know if I'd want to survive because the feelings that you would have to live with would be fucked up. Real, God, so hard.
Yeah.
And I imagine some of the guys who were in the fucking rafts. Can you imagine?
I
like
can't.
being in a position of
I can't.
watching other people drowning and getting eaten by sharks while you have like one of the fucking, 30 spots in a raft or however much it was. I have no idea how many people were actually in rafts, but not a ton.
Mm-hmm.
So on that note,
We're all crying.
it's gonna get better when we get back, you guys. So hang in there. We got some good news on the horizon. And, we'll be right back after this word from our sponsors. And we're back. All right, guys. So a little bit of hope is on the horizon. So 4 days after the sinking, on August 2nd at 11 a.m., Lieutenant Junior Grade Wilbur Chuck Gwynn, who the men call their angel, so sweet, spots an oil slick from 8,000 feet above and drops to 300 feet to check it out.
Mm-hmm.
And then he sees, like, all of these men, like, splashing around in the water. He calls for help, and within a few hours, another plane flown by Lieutenant Adrian Marks comes and drops off rafts and survival supplies. But one of the rafts broke in the fall, and the other rafts dropped too far from the men. They were too exhausted to swim to them. So against orders, he landed his plane in the 12-foot waves and started taxiing around, picking up survivors. Because he said he was literally watching men being attacked by sharks from above in the plane. And was like, yeah, I'm not going to
leave them
sit here and watch this happen. Yeah, so he did like a water landing and started going all to all the guys who were by themselves or like injured.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. He was able to pick up 56 people. There wasn't enough room in that little plane for that, so he had men like strapped to the wings with parachute cord. Like just
Oh
insanity.
Oh, we're all full in here. So, wait, is the plane one of those planes? What are they called? The planes that can land. Seaplane. Yeah. Was it that type of plane?
I think so.
Okay. So it could maneuver.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't it have to be? Because he was maneuvering. And then did he?
Yeah, I guess it would just like sink, right? If it were a regular plane.
No clue.
Yeah,
No
me
clue.
neither. I had to do a lot of research on World War II. Okay, I couldn't get into like all of the history of aviation. It was a lot,
Either way, he strapped him to the wings. You'd take it. You'd take it after 4. I'd be like,
take that ticket for sure. Strap me down.
Strap me anywhere. Strap me inside the porta potty. Like strap me in the toilet. I will fucking fly out of here any which way.
Yeah,
you can. Yeah, like shove me under your seat.
Right.
Not like that.
I can get into a ball.
Yeah, anything. Yeah.
And like there was men trying to swim to the craft and drowning in the process because they were just too exhausted. So about 12 hours later, the U.S.S. Doyle. Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think it's amazing that this many men survived this many days in these conditions.
Oh, yeah.
I'm surprised. I mean, the fact that there are any survivors who were not in the boats. Now, 4 days in a boat is not easy. That's still actually a feat in itself with whatever water and food and whatever they had to do. But the whole thing. Yeah. I mean, if you're in the open water and you survived this, wow.
It's just absolutely by sheer will. Like a lot of these guys said, like, I saw my mom's face and I wanted to get back to her. Or my dad told me he wished he could go with me, but he couldn't, so Jesus would. And I just knew that what my dad said, that Jesus was there with me. People just like
whatever you're telling yourself in the moment, if it's working, keep no judgment free zone. If it's like a doorknob, just
Right.
think whatever
There was like a couple dudes who were like, yeah, dying was just never like never even a possibility in my mind.
Option.
Like I
Yeah.
knew that I would get out of that situation. I'm like,
I
would
don't know if I just have that fortitude. You
don't
just
think
the
so.
mindset you have to have is really incredible. I think though going through, I wonder. I mean, certainly you build those things up. I think, but I also think part of that is a skill that you can't know you have until you have it. Right.
Right. I don't know. Maybe I would totally be a survivor, and I just don't even know it.
It reminds me of Naked and Afraid a little bit because, quick sidebar, I'll say this in like 15 seconds. All these men who have all this military background, I don't know if anyone watches this show, it was a COVID thing. I never
I
would
love
watch
Alone.
that show.
Alone.
Oh, is it similar? You go out
Yeah.
and have to survive? So all the men, and I think the producers probably choose this, but the men come into it and they all have like military backgrounds or Navy backgrounds or some sort of armed forces, whatever. And they get paired with these women who are just like hardcore survivalist people who don't necessarily have the resume to back up their shit. But
They're just
in
tough bitches.
in so many scenarios, the men who come in super cocky, super confident, I'm going to crush this. This is not going to be a problem. I've been through all these crazy scenarios. And then in a lot of the situations, the women are the ones who fare better. So I don't know if I made a point there, but
I believe that.
it just reminded me of that. So my point, I guess, is you don't know you've got it until.
If that were a ship full of
you do
women,
it.
there would have been 600 survivors, is what Cam's trying to say.
That's what I'm saying. Feminine.
Hashtag don't trust men. What's up, Michelle?
Hey, Michelle. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Ay, ay, ay.
All right. Get us out of here. Get us out of here, Ashley. Get us out of this water.
12 hours later, the USS Doyle came and picked up the rest of the survivors.
Finally.
The guy who talked about, like, the flesh separating from that guy's bones when he tried to pick him out of the water said that, like, also he saw men, like, bobbing in the water in their life jacket and, like, you know, went to pull them out and realized that they were missing the lower half of their body and they were dead.
Mm-hmm. Total Jaws nightmare.
Oh, does that happen in Jaws?
A little bit. I watched that movie when I was way too young, so I was scarred for life by it. But there's definitely a scene when, just they reminded me of.
He's like, hey, Billy, come on, get in the boat. And then
there's no legs. Yes.
Billy's, yeah, okay. All right, I'm getting us out of here. So, you know, they haven't had food or water or a lot of them sleep for like 4 or 5 days at this point. So some of them were just fucking gone. Like, you know, one guy, you know, kind of like said, like, get off me, I'm going home, jumped from the rescue ship back into the ocean. Like they were.
Man. Yeah.
A lot of them had lost it, you know.
Yep.
And anyone who drank salt water lost it and was dead within like an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who drank salt water like went crazy and would like pull their comrades down with them. So if you were next to somebody who drank salt water, you'd try to get away from them because they were about to lose their fucking mind and like maybe kill you.
Wow.
People were like swimming off because they'd be like, oh, there's an island over there. Or, you know, they were like seeing things and.
Yeah. You hallucinate when you're dehydrated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
totally.
so they would start swimming to an island and either then they're away from the group. So they'd die of exhaustion or like a shark would come up and nab them because they're alone. Which also I was like, I don't know, maybe that wouldn't be the worst because you'd also be like in your own weird world where you were like on your way to the island.
Hey, man. Head to that. Yeah. Head
And you
to
wouldn't
that
even
island.
see the shark coming, you know? Like maybe that wouldn't be that bad.
Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's some milkmaids and like hot biscuits on the other side of that hill.
Hell yeah.
You know, that sounds great. So exactly, ignorance is bliss. I don't know. This is fucked up because fuck the military and the government. They were kept under tight security for the next few weeks. The letters that they sent home were censored and they had to pretend as if they were still on a ship that hadn't sunk. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, because, like...
It would make us
it was
look
a
weak
super,
if...
Yeah, it was a big fuck-up. And, you know, they weren't allowed to tell anything of the disaster until August 15th because they wanted to make sure that the news that the Japanese had surrendered overshadowed that news. So on the front page, it's like, Japanese surrender, yeah. And then there's like a tiny little box at the bottom that's like, and a ship sank. No biggie.
Sounds about right.
Obviously, they needed somebody to blame. You know, they can't take the blame for that. So they scapegoated the captain, Charles B. McVeigh III. And he was court-martialed for failing to tell people to abandon ship, even though all the communication was down. And he did. And failing to zigzag, which meant, like, zigzagging out of the way of, like, potential harm, even though they were told that there was no potential harm and denied an escort. And later, Hashimoto, the commander of the sub that hit them, later testified that zigzagging wouldn't have made a difference anyways. So basically they like fucked this guy over just to be like, you're bad. No other Navy captain has ever been court-martialed for losing a ship in war. And like other people got like reprimanded for like just all of the fuck-ups like along the way he got blamed for.
Okay.
A lot of the families blamed him as well and sent him like fucked up letters and stuff. And in 1968, at the age of 70, he killed himself with his Navy issued revolver. Yeah, super sad. And a lot of the survivors campaigned because they were like, fuck that. He was our captain and he was good. So on October 30th, 2000, he was posthumously exonerated by Congress and President Bill Clinton. And just last year, Congress awarded the surviving crew members with the Congressional Gold Medal, which is its highest honor. But like just last year, when there's like 5 people still alive is when you give them that award. Like they totally were just like, shut the fuck up. Don't talk about this. Your captain fucked up.
It was the 50s, man. That whole era was about manning up and men not showing emotions. And, you know, it kind of fits right in if you look at the context. I'm sure that there was no conversations about mental health. This would have been, you survived, you're lucky, you know?
Yeah.
And it's
or
amazing.
In Japan, why the fuck are you home? Why are you here?
Right. So I'm surprised it took this long, but I'm also not, I'm not surprised that it took a long time or way longer than it should have. Yeah.
Well, and it took them, 50 years to say that like, okay, it wasn't McVeigh's fault. And then like another 20 to be like, hey, you guys did a great job.
It's just horrible.
But besides that being horrible, like it does, there was 317 survivors. A lot of them have gotten together for reunions, like for a long time now. A lot of them are super proud of, the fact that they delivered parts for the atomic bomb that helped end the war. And I don't know if I can squeeze anything else happy out of it.
It's fine.
It's fine. So, yeah, that's the worst shark attack in history and the worst U.S. naval maritime disaster also in history.
It is a total disaster.
I didn't play bingo at all. Did you?
I didn't get any. I tried, but there was a couple, but they weren't. There's a lot of stuff that it didn't work.
Yeah. Fucked up bingo super random, A. B, yes. Well, I don't know. There's no B. I was going to say B is I didn't play it because I was really deep in the story. Man, just like researching that was really anxiety inducing. There was a lot of me in my room going like, whoa, what the fuck? Like, it's freaking out.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so that's it, you guys. Thanks for being here, joining us on that fucking journey.
That was
into one of my worst nightmares.
I think that's anybody's. It doesn't matter whether you like sharks, hate them, indifferent. There's so many factors there that are horrendous.
Well, I did the story initially because of the sharks. But before I ever even got to the fucking sharks, I was like, Jesus Christ, this is awful. Well, anyways, you guys can find our new merch store, which is up and running on our website. It looks super awesome. We just really upped the quality of our merch. So we've got like Champion, American Apparel, just like really nice shit, you guys. We got crop tees.
Yeah.
Baby oneies, as Cam calls them.
I'm going to wear that one.
Ooh.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
You better get some pictures if that happens. And, links to our Patreon if you fancy joining that and hearing all of our interviews and getting, all the bonuses that comes with, or if you just want to support us, which we love. And yeah, you can find all of that on our website, tsfuthepodcast.com.
And you guys, please do keep sending us your listener-sewed stories to tsfuthepodcast@gmail.com. We just recorded a listener-sewed with Michelle because she's at our guru level Patreon. Mm-hmm. And we had a blast. That was so fun. It was great.
Jinxies.
Yeah. And thanks, Michelle, again, for being our guru.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. That was really fun. And yeah, I think that's all for us. So remember, you guys, it's not a cult. It's just a podcast.
But really, it's a really bad fucking shark attack.
Your worst goddamn nightmare.
Bum 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 bum. That's fucked up. So fucked up. Can't you see? It's just really fucked. That's fucked up.